Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about something that has been requested so many times, and I'm so excited to share this: how to say no without sounding rude. I know it's not easy to turn down others, but in order for you to build healthy boundaries around what you're willing to do at work, how much you're willing to take on, when you're available, when you're not available, you have to learn how to say no without sounding rude. And yes, it is possible. So let's talk about it. Now, when it comes to saying no, I think there are three main reasons why we struggle with this. The first one is because we don't want to upset anybody, right? We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or maybe lose their respect or get on their bad side. No. Two is that we may feel guilty. Like if someone is asking us to do something, they probably think that we can do it, and they probably think that that's not a big deal for us, or maybe they just don't understand how much we already have on our plate. And then the third reason is that sometimes we don't even know how to say no. Maybe they never had to say no before, or they never worked in an environment where we needed to say no to other people. So let's start with the first reason. Sometimes we struggle with saying no because we don't want to upset anyone or hurt their feelings. And I hear this a lot from newer employees who tend to be more sensitive and emotional about things like this. Listen, the reality is people will always have opinions about you. They always gonna have something to say, and some people are just gonna be unhappy no matter what you do. So if you're constantly trying to please them by saying yes to everything, you're not only setting yourself up for failure, but you're also sending the message that you're weak. And when your colleagues and bosses see that you're weak, they will continue to push and push until you break. Now, of course, there are ways to deal with this situation. The first thing I would recommend here is to develop a thick skin. When you first start out in your career, you're really gonna have to deal with a lot of nonsense, and you're really gonna need to develop a thick skin to handle the situation. Now, I know it's not easy to do, but you're really gonna have to accept that there will always be people who try to make you feel small. And it's really important that you stay true to yourself and you don't try to change yourself to please others. Second, remember that there is a difference between being nice and being weak. Being nice means that you're kind and considerate towards others. But being weak means that you let people take advantage of you. And I'm not saying that you should be mean to others, but you shouldn't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Now, here's a little tip on how to say no without hurting anyone's feelings. Remember that tone matters. And when you say no, say it kindly and with a smile. It's also important that you explain your reasoning. Tell them that you're busy with another project or that you have other commitments and you won't be able to make it. All right, now let's move on to the second reason why it's hard to say no: guilt. Some of us feel guilty when we turn someone down because we feel like we're letting them down, or we feel like we're not doing enough. Let me tell you something. Feeling guilty for not helping others is not a good thing. Feeling guilty means that you're taking on too much responsibility and you're not setting boundaries. This is going to lead to burnout and resentment. And trust me, you don't want to feel resentful. The key here is to remember that you can't help everyone all the time, and it's okay to say no sometimes. In fact, it's a good thing. So how do you say no without feeling guilty? Well, one way is to say, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not able to help you with that right now. Or you could say, that's a great project and I wish I could help you, but I'm just too busy right now. Okay, the third reason is that sometimes we just don't know how to say no. And this is often the case with people who have never had to say no before. If you've always had the privilege of not having to say no, then it might be difficult for you when you start working. So how do you deal with this situation? Well, one way is to simply practice saying no. Start small. Say no to things that are not important to you. For example, if a colleague asks you to cover their shift, you can say no. If they ask you to do a favor that's outside of your job description, you can also say no. The key is to be polite but firm. Don't feel like you need to make excuses or give long explanations. Just say no and move on. Another way to deal with this situation is to set boundaries. Setting boundaries is a great way to avoid having to say no all the time. For example, you could set a boundary around your availability. Let people know when you're available to work and when you're not available. You could also set a boundary around your workload. Let people know how much work you can take on and how much work you can't take on. By setting boundaries, you making it clear what you willing to do and what you not willing to do. So you don't have to say no all the time. All right, so those are some tips on how to say no without sounding rude. Now let's talk about why it's important to say no at work. First, it helps you avoid burnout. Burnout happens when you're overworked and emotionally drained. When you say yes to everything, you're setting yourself up for burnout. So make sure you say no when you need to. Second, it helps you maintain a positive attitude. When you're constantly stressed out and overworked, it's hard to maintain a positive attitude. But when you learn to say no, you'll find that you're much happier at work. Third, it allows you to focus on quality over quantity. When you say yes to everything, you may feel like you're being productive, but you're not really being very efficient. When you say no to most things and only say yes to the things that are really important to you, you'll be able to focus on doing those things well. Fourth, it helps you avoid making promises you can't keep. When you say yes to everything, you may make promises you can't keep. And when you break your promises, people will lose respect for you. Fifth, it helps you build confidence. When you learn to say no, you'll find that you're much more confident at work. This is because you'll feel like you're in control of your life and you won't feel like you're being taken advantage of. And sixth, it allows you to be more assertive. Assertiveness is an important skill in the workplace. When you're able to say no and stand up for yourself, you'll find that your colleagues and bosses will respect you more. And look, saying no is not rude. It's actually a sign of respect. It shows that you value your time and you won't waste it on things that are unimportant to you. It also shows that you're confident and assertive, which are two qualities that all employers look for in employees. So next time someone asks you to do something you don't want to do, don't be afraid to say no. You don't have to feel guilty about it, and you don't have to be rude. Just be polite and firm and say no. All right, friends, that's it for today. I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, please don't forget to like it. And if you want more videos like this, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.